Hello, hi, it's Dr. Linda Jordan. I am on here today just to share a few tips with you around if you're in the process of looking for a tenant. So, I just want to share a few simple steps with you around how to find a good tenant. Um, the first thing you have to do is decide if you want to manage your property yourself. If you want to do that, fine, great. However, you can take the route of hiring a property manager, someone who will manage all that for you. They will find the tenant for you. I actually do both. So if you're like me and you want to do both, then here's a few simple things that you could do. So, first of all, you want to have a rental application. You can have an attorney draw it up for you, or you can do what I did, which was I went on the North Carolina landlord site. And so it's called easylandlordforms.com. And you can select the North Carolina state if that's where you're in, or select whatever state that you're in to make sure you get the appropriate form. So I use that particular form because that way I don't have to worry about if I got everything the right way or from a legal perspective. Have them fill out the application, have them sign it. Then your second step is to do your tenant screening. Follow up on their references that they've given you. Make sure that you ask for pay stubs. That's just to really verify the income that they said they've made. So you want to get pay stubs for that, and any form of income that they have. You want to have documentation that they said that's what they have. So once you've done all of that, then the third step is you want to do your tenant screening. So yes, you will need to sign up for or have someone else do it for you. I do my own, and I use myrental.com. You can get two different types of security security screenings. You can do a simple one that's $29.95, or I believe it's $19.95, depends what system you use. And you can sign up for that, and it will run a credit check and a reference check on your tenants. Now, if you want to expand that and do more on the criminal side, I think it's $39.99 for the system that I use, which is myrental.com. And you'll get the full report of everything, even if someone was late with their credit, or it'll tell you the credit score. It'll also show you if they've had any violations, speeding tickets, or any arrest charges, sexual offenders. They'll show you all of their criminal history. So that's good for you if you want to know all about your tenants. And I think it's very helpful to know that, so that you can do your proper screening. So once you've done your proper screening, your next step is to then figure out how you're going to how you're going to approve which tenant, if you have multiple tenants. So that's something that you have to decide with your own discretion. You can have a spreadsheet that you can put all the names in with their different, the criteria that you have and how they have scored, or if they've met your criteria or not. But create your own matrix of how you want to determine your selection around your tenant. Now, that can be challenging if you've got a couple of great tenants and you're not really sure, how you want to make that decision if your matrix is so close. Another thing that you can do is, have an interview with them. And that's basically having a conversation around, getting to know them a little bit better. You can't ask specific questions about, how they're cleaning or anything like that, because that's against the law. But you can just have a general conversation about, what's going on with them, why they want to live in your home, or what made them decide to move. You can do something very simple like that. So it just gives you a chance to connect and get to know that potential tenant even better. Now, once your decision has been made of who you are going to accept as the tenant, you then want to make sure that you quickly get a deposit for your first month's rent. So you always get a deposit. You can decide how you want to do that, whether it's the full first month rent or you want to take a percentage, whatever you choose to do. But I would highly recommend getting a full month's rent for security deposit. If you accept pets, Be very specific in your rental application. Just write down proposed pets. You can put pets are not allowed. Or if you want to make sure that you are compliant from a disability perspective, maybe it could be a blind person who might have a blind dog, or there's also individuals who may have anxiety, so they have a pet companion. You want to make sure that you have that doctor's note that justifies they have a pet. So those are just a couple of things you want to make sure that you cover to make sure that it is have a pet. So just make sure that you have that all in your application and you are following those particular rules yourself. So once you've got that determined, you've got them ready to move in, you've got their deposit. Now you need to create the lease. So in your lease, be very, very specific of how you want someone to live in your home. And what I mean by that is whether it's no smoking, no loud parties, no loud noises. If you're in a condo, you want to be very specific to make sure that if you have HOA, that you provide a copy of the HOA rules so they know what the rules are and they're not doing anything that would cause you any trouble with the HOA. So you just want to make sure you provide that to them. Even if you're renting a condo or a townhome and there's a pool and there's pool access. So maybe you have to have a card to get it, a key access to get into the pool. Make sure that you provide your tenants with that along with the ground rules. Even when it comes to trash, making sure that they're responsible for the utilities unless you plan to pay for that. So in your lease, be very, very specific of all the things that you want to make sure that are covered, particularly when someone is time to renew the lease. They may decide they don't want to renew the lease. So you want to make sure that you have specific rules around when it's time to renew the lease or when it's time for the lease to expire. If the tenant decides that they're going to vacate the premises prior to your 1-year lease, that's what I recommend is doing a 1-year lease. You want to make sure that you have all those specific details in there, because if you don't, you will end up in court if you say you don't specify that it's a 1-year lease and prior to the 1 year, if someone leaves in the middle. If you don't be very specific about that, then you might end up losing some money on that end. So just be very detailed in how you want your lease to be specified to the tenant. I would recommend you can get an attorney, or again you could utilize the easy forms, which are for landlords by state online, and that will actually help you go through the process. As you have created your lease, your tenant has signed it, everybody's in agreement. The other piece is to make sure that there is a addendum for tenant insurance. If they opt not to have renter's insurance, then have them sign a form that they've opted out. You want to be covered that way in case there's a fire. Unfortunately, hopefully there won't be, but you never know what might happen. So make sure that they have signed an addendum that they choose not to have renter's insurance. So they sign the lease, everything's great, you exchange the keys, and then you want to provide them with a move-in packet. So you walk through the property, they check the list to make sure that everything is there as you have indicated. All appliances are working. You share with them, particularly around hot water heater, if there are any issues, if your HVAC is electric or gas, natural gas. But one of the most important things you want to make sure that your tenant is very aware of, and I put this in all of my leases, is that they change that HVAC filter every quarter. What you can do is put a date on the filter to make sure that when you put that date on that filter, if they don't check and change that filter, and here it is now, like summertime, it's going to be really hot, they may call and say, hey, my HVAC is not working. It's blowing out, hot air on a day when we want cold air. If they do something like that, then you always ask them, have they changed the filter? Because what will happen in some cases, if they haven't changed the filter, that causes backup with the HVAC, that could cause you a ton of money What all they needed to do was change the filter. So what I do in a lot of cases is sometimes I make site visits and I have a filter with me. I put the filter on the date on the filter, and then you have them change it. So you could do something that very simple, and that'll save you a lot of money. So my 10 minutes is up. I just wanted to pop on for a few minutes to share a few tips with you regarding checking in your tenant, finding a tenant for your rental property. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to put it in the chat or connect with me at linda@lrj-consulting.com, or you can feel free to go to the website talkwithcoachlinda.com to get more information. So if you haven't purchased a rental property, then you need to. The price of real estate is going up really high. So let's get that rental property and get that tenant in there and make you some money with your rentals. Until next time, bye-bye.